Okay, I want to start to set the scene with a projection or some information just so that we can have as a bit of a baseline thing. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll put it up on the screen, but I'll obviously read this stuff as well. A basic projection of superannuation, I'll read through the assumptions first. Current age is 40, target 65 or retiring when we're stopping this assumption. The current super balance is $200,000. The current total salary package is $90,000, which is about an $80,000 base and 12% SG to super, which is about $9,500. We're going to index salary annually at 3%. We're going to include a $500 a month salary sacrifice to superannuation.
Extra.
We're just going to assume an 8.5% return. Now, it's really hard. I've kind of had to munch this myself. I've assumed 0.5% for internal tax rate, so the return was like 9%, but that 8.5% is after fees, and the fees that I've used for the super account is 0.8% and inflation on the super account of 3%. So basically how it works is when we do projections online, John, we need to always look at today's dollars and use inflation, because there are so many people online, call them influencers, call them butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, that will do this, $500 a month for the next 20 years is $3 million. Well, that's cute, but it's not a real accurate understanding of today. Before I move on to, so just as it is there, in today's dollars, that person would have $1.05 million in their superannuation. Okay. So that's just a baseline $1 million at age 65. If they have $200,000 at age 40 in their super. A couple of things there. The AFSA website, which is the Australian Superannuation Fund Association, they've got this whole thing about retirement standards, and they call it the AFSA comfortable standard. To have a comfortable retirement, they're saying that a single person needs $52,000 a year and a couple $73,000 a year. You can look at the AFSA super website for kind of all their assumptions. And basically what they've done is they've worked that backwards, and it does tell you, a comfortable retirement, modest, and if you are a renter. So it assumes that by retirement you own a house. It assumes that there is some age pension there. But all that to say, based on their vibe of having a comfortable retirement at age 65, a couple needs $73,000 a year and a single needs $52,000. They're saying if you're age 40, at the moment, you'd want to have $168,000 in super.
So what someone that's listening to the show that's age 40 is checking their super balance right now and saying, have I got 168, have I got 200, have I got 50?
Yeah.
What would you say the average 40-year-old in Australia might have now?
Well, it's probably around that, maybe a bit less.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know some friends in their 40s that have maybe 250, 300. I've seen some come through the get help section on the website, and you might get a 43-year-old with 600,000 or something crazy because they've just added extra for the last 20 years and done all that stuff.
Yeah. I was speaking to someone in defence yesterday. They got 17% and they're adding another 8 or something their own. So they're going to be massively geared up in super. But going and looking, and I'm sure we're going to chat about this, but the 73 and the 52 for individuals and couples, it's relative to what you want your lifestyle to look like and how long you're going to live.
Yeah, so overall, the exact amount you need for retirement is as much as possible. So I'm just looking here. Again, it's from the AFSA's Super Balance, but I'm just on the ART website. They've had a few episodes with us. How much should I have at my age? So this is the should, remember, working back to that modest retirement or comfortable retirement rather. 45 to 26, 50 to 96, 35, 111, 30, 66, 25, $26,000. The thing that I would say, what you actually have to look at is, you could be self-employed and work for yourself forevermore, have 50 grand in super, but you got 4 investment properties outside of super. I want you to look back at your whole asset pool, not just this. But I think the reason I just wanted to say that was as a benchmark for this kind of discussion. And then what we'll do, I'll go back to our little assumptions here. If you added the $500 a month extra at retirement or at age 65, your balance would increase to $1.236 million. And that's an extra $186,000 between now and 20 years. And based on the assumptions that we've used, your own contributions is about $60,000 and the investment growth is about $125,000. By putting money into superannuation as a salary sacrifice arrangement, you'll probably save about $1,020 per year at the moment on tax, because we've taken into account your marginal tax rate outside of super and the difference of the 15% tax into super. So all that to say is an extra $200,000 at retirement could be the difference between modest and comfortable. It's to illustrate that pretty much any money you invest at age 40 extra over the next 25 years will basically double in growth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And super isn't the only way to build wealth for your retirement.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a nice little thing because it's an easy assumption to make. And maybe the question is, if you are in your 40s and you haven't actively thought about building your financial future, you need to start right now, extra over your super contributions. And that, John, could mean the S word comes into play, and that S word is sacrifice.
What do you think, and I know this is an open-ended question, what do you think people might need in retirement? Like $1 million at 65, at 8.5% return gives you about 90 grand a year in return.
Put it this way, on the current assumptions, if someone was earning 90 grand a year at the moment as an individual and they had their super, they might be getting $1,100 a week after tax, right? If I guess what I'm saying is if the current way of retirement savings and super and pension in Australia, you'll be better off in retirement than you are right now. Because you'll own your house and you'll still have at least $1,000 a week to live off after tax.
That's right. Provided we get that sort of 7-8% return. If we're getting 5%, then it's relative.
And that's why I want everyone to, in today's dollars, and you can use online calculators, please sprinkle 50 grains of salt all over them, but it will just give you a good direction. Say, in retirement or when we stop working at age 60, the two of us, as a couple, we're going to own our home and we want $1,500 a week in the bank account. Use online calculators, use AI to back calculate it. How much do I need to save in today's dollars?
Yeah. And as I said before, the wealth magnets in our life are the key. So you might have...
Yeah, what are your wealth magnets?
Well, I think the top four... I look at four pillars, I suppose, and say, right, principal place of residence is almost like a magnet on its own because it's not income producing, but it's wealth creating.
Yeah.
There's cash on its own to say year on year we can increase the cash. And then there's shares, super, and investment properties as the big ones. And the one that probably a lot of us have or may want to have is a business interest. Yeah. So I put those income producing assets into one bucket, if you want to call it, because they're the ones that are continually giving us income versus the ones that are sitting there creating wealth for us, like our principal place, and then the cash increasing year on year as well. But yeah, like you mentioned before, if you've got 50 grand in super now at age 40, but you've got a business and 3 investment properties and some ETFs over here, there's no need for concern.
Well, the only concern I would say is make sure you're not paying too much tax a year because you can be paying less on tax systematically each year and building wealth for the long term. What's the problem?
That's right. Yeah. So that's where a good team of people is critical in that, isn't it? And obviously in this conversation, it's your accountant that says, hang on a minute, you're paying 60 grand in tax over here, but we're not offsetting any of that. So what can we do?
So like I've kind of printed our talking points and you've added to them and whatnot. I'm going to jump around a bit just because of the nature of our discussion so far. This episode, it's probably more a wake-up call, as I've said, and me having a rant and John having reason because I want to rattle your cage in your 40s. I want you to be rattled. I need to be rattled. There's stuff in my life. I'm not above any of this crap. So let's talk. If someone is in their 40s and there are genuine people in their 40s, single couples, familied, no familied, who are renting and they don't own a property. See that point that I've got there, John? Invest in your first property or another if you can. We'll forget about the other at the moment. But my next point under that, John, I've written, have you got a solid plan in relation to your housing strategy? And what I mean by that is I want you to say to your spouse or partner or to your mirror, because I live in Sydney, this is a dumpster fire of a property market, I can't get in. Out loud, I'm saying I'm going to rent here, take all the home fever away and not buying a house or a unit in Sydney, whatever that is, or Brisbane, Melbourne, wherever you live. And I'm just going to get the best deal I can on rent between now and age 60 or 65. And I'm going full ham in building assets, either super, an investment property, ETFs in my own name. Then once I stop working, I'll use that capital and buy a property. That's kind of what I want to take the conversation. What do you think about having a solid plan around a housing strategy?
Yeah, I think it's a different version to what we've seen 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. Like most suburbs in Sydney and to a lesser extent Brisbane, Melbourne were achievable for a lot of people 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Today, there is a lot of suburbs that just simply aren't. And those that are outside the cage will not get in the cage in the likes of Mosman and Manly and a few of those, like plenty of them actually. Toorak in Melbourne. But with that to say, I think there's a major shift in people's mindset. And it's a forced shift because we're saying, yeah, we can't afford to live here, but all my friends and family are here. Friends and somewhat family, we're taking off and moving to another area for lifestyle. Or they're sacrificing not having kids, or I'm only having one child because 2 or 3 means I can't work for the next 7 years because I'm just having kids all the time. So there's a lot of sacrifices being made at the moment out there where I'm either changing location, I'm either not having as many kids or kids at all, or I'm saying to myself, yeah, I'd love to live and own a house in Mossman. I can't afford it, but I want to live around here, so I'm going to rent, like you mentioned. That's okay for now. The question is, what about in 15 years' time when you wake up at age 50 or 55? Are you still wanting to be a renter? And I can't answer that today, but all I would say, like you've mentioned, is get on the investment train somewhere so that you've got opportunity and choice to say, well, at 55, you know what, I'm going to actually move to a regional location, or I might have met a partner by then and we're going to combine our assets and then have our opportunity to live in our own home. But it's the biggest sticking point in wealth creation, I think, in Australia is owning your own home. And not necessarily keeping up with the Joneses, just having a roof over our head now that 10 years ago was affordable is now not affordable because wage growth hasn't kept up.
So that's the question. If you don't own a home, what are your plans and what is your strategy? Because in a perfect world, by the time your tools are up, I want you to have enough cash to buy a house outright or pay off a mortgage, or at least once you call it 65, once you stop working, that you do not have any rent. And the good news is, it might not be good news for someone who's 58 listening to this or 60 listening to this, but if you're in your 40s, you've got time to really dial into this strategy. And there could be some sacrifices where I've got to rent somewhere not as good because I need extra money to invest for the future.
There's not many that won't have to sacrifice something.
100%. We'll come back to another one, but just on this housing strategy and the living strategy, my question to you, what are you going to do if you've got a mortgage now and the house is pretty good and livable, and you know you got kids or teenagers or whatever, and yeah, if they move out, you probably stay there for another 20 years, like it's all good and there's a mortgage. What's your mortgage strategy? Is the plan to attack the mortgage with all vengeance, or to still build wealth elsewhere and keep the mortgage, cycling along, or do a bit of both? The maths all day long says over the longer term, financially you'll be better off not paying additional mortgage repayments and investing via salary sacrifice to super if you've got the caps on RetireRight. We did a whole episode with some strategies on that. But the numbers aren't the leading factor. What do you feel like? What's your risk profile? Does one of you in the relationship want to pay it off sooner? And we can do this within 10 years and then we'll be 50, then we can spend the next 15 years investing, knock yourself out. But again, I just want you to have a strategy with what you're doing. If you do have that mortgage, part of the strategy, if you do have a house and a mortgage, will you need to upgrade in 5 years? So this is all this stuff that you have to have a strategy.
Yeah. When I'm doing clarity calls, the biggest excitement comes from when we say, look, you can own your home outright in 5 years' time versus you can get 3 investment properties in 5 years' time. I think the excitement, the great Aussie dream is owning that home outright, isn't it? And having a forecast and a plan for that is step number one, I think, or the highest priority, because it eliminates your stress. It gives you lifestyle choice. You essentially own your own house, no monthly repayments anymore. But I think people underestimate just how quickly you can get that done. They underestimate the use of an offset account. They underestimate how much extra repayments they potentially could make, but also how much maybe $200 a week makes a difference over the next 10 years, right? You're cutting your mortgage by 5, 6, 7. Like we've done an assessment where you cut your mortgage in half just by simply making affordable repayments, where previously they've had the mindset of it's a 30-year term, so I'll just get on with my life and just do the bare minimum.
Here's the one strategy that will allow you to pay your home off sooner. You've skirted around it, but you weren't as direct, John. Pay extra on your bloody mortgage. And if you've got savings and you've got short-term goals, use an offset account. I'm not a big fan of the redraw because I like money to be quarantined for the behavioural stuff. But if you want to pay your mortgage off in 7 years, you don't have to pay $5,000 to a seminar run by a mortgage broker who swears a lot and all that stuff. You just need to have a strategy, make a sacrifice, pay extra on your mortgage. We're not going to have 2 brand new cars at $1,500 a month car payments. Guess what? We're going to pay extra on our home. It might take us 7 years, it might take us 10 years, but it is possible if you are intentional, if you want to sacrifice, and if you're both on board.
Yeah, that's important when you've got a couple that you are both on that train. But I think having the first step in that is seeing what's possible on an online mortgage repayments calculator and saying, okay, if I adjust my lifestyle to $100 a week extra or $200 a week or $500 a week, whatever it is in your life, this is how many years I've cut it by, which means now I'm retired. Now I've got no mortgage at 50 versus the current pathway where it's going to be 60. It's a massive incentive, isn't it?
Hey, it's Glen here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You made it to the end. Can I ask a favor? Can you hit that like button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get notified when we release further videos just like this one, whether you watch the Money, Money, Money podcast or Retire Right. And remember, if you want to learn more about investing, I've got an investing book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, and there's a link in the description to get your hands on a copy. Thank you so much. Bye.